of the Wild Bob with Ronnie show. And we're tickled to death to be with you, coming to you from East Tennessee on WLAF 1450 AM or WLAF 100.9 FM or on UGTV.tv on the website.
Now wait a minute. This is Wild Bob and Ronnie with Bob. I was once here last week, you wasn't.
Oh, there you go.
By the way, I'm behind the camera tonight because we had a problem with our camera operator.
What it was, somebody didn't pay
Be sure to get my check.
What it was a volunteer, and we realized after a couple, 3 weeks of this that we were not, she was getting to see this show free. She wasn't buying a ticket. So when we insisted that she buy a ticket in order to be here, she bucked up on us and went on strike. But we're holding out. We think we got it figured out.
Well, you know, as long as you get my good side.
Well, I look a lot better than this side, too.
Yeah, okay.
You guys want to call?
Right.
It's 562-3557 or 566-1450.
Right, on your radio dial. Okay, just call us up, 1450. Be glad to talk to you.
You can also listen to the show on Channel 12 on your TV.
Right. Can you?
I don't know where you can or not.
Yeah. We are broadcast on TV. They're running the ads and we're in the background.
Okay.
Oh, because there's nothing else on. Okay.
Right.
Okay.
They're just running those
Yeah.
ads.
Well, nobody wanted to go in competition with us. That's the reason.
They couldn't stand the heat, could they?
Is that right?
So obviously we have a lot of sponsors running in the background or foreground of our show,
Right,
of your show.
right. We're putting all of them on the map, is what we're doing.
Making them famous.
But you know, we've had a busy week here in Campbell County.
What's happened, Bob?
Well, we've had several tragedies, especially as far as one of our police officers, Officer Starrett, passed away, I believe, last night, I believe. And he was involved in an accident down Caribou, in which I believe this makes 3 or 4 people that were killed in that accident. We also had another one up here where one of our Campbell County residents were killed. And, you know, as busy as I see our local law enforcement staying, I don't see why in the world we would ever have an accident. Because yesterday on the way home, the 2 of La Follett's finest, I had a car pulled over. I went on down the road just a little further. This was less than a quarter of a mile, and the Tennessee Highway Patrol had a car pulled over. And I went probably less than another quarter of a mile, and the Sheriff's Department had one pulled over. So with all these safety measures that are being taken, I don't see why in the world we would ever have an accident.
It's also the end of the month, and they've got to meet their quota of tickets.
You think that's what it is?
Oh, you know it is.
Well, it kind of looks a little bit familiar at the end of each month, you know, and but I mean, they're on the job. Oh, I'm glad to say that my neighbor is getting better. He was getting strong enough. He called the police again on my goats, so I know he's getting better, and we want to just be thankful for his recovery.
Have your goats escaped the prison?
Well, what happened, I've got a wooden fence up there, and the wind blew a section of it down, and they just walked out, you know. And so the local gendarme, he was kind enough to yell at them, and they run and got back in my lot. That's all they had to do was yell at them, and they got back in my yard. Lord, he said, but the neighbors are upset. I said, I don't have any neighbors. I said, all I got is somebody lives close to me.
Good point. You know, we have had a lot happen. We got several businesses that are packing up and shutting down. Probably anywhere, I've seen numbers anywhere from 164 up to 350 families will be affected by A&S closing. That company that makes those campers for pickup trucks.
You know, they make pool type campers. They make what's the name of that company? Trailmobile. Trailmobile makes a beautiful pool type camper.
And then you've got Carmike Theater gonna close down. I'm sure that'll affect a handful of people.
We'd like to invite everybody to join UGTV in case you don't have anything
Well,
else to
they
do.
just couldn't stand the competition.
That's what it was.
You know, between UGTV.tv.
Now, if they're gonna, all these businesses are closing up and leaving, and anywhere from 165 to 350 families are gonna be out of work. All these breadwinners out of work. They already have a solution here in our county and city.
They're hiring.
They know how to resolve this problem. It's I call it the David G. Young law of business. I'm sure it was developed by him and some of his people and cohorts and government. But our city and county has a perfect solution for what we're facing.
Raise taxes.
Raise taxes. You got it, Bob. We need a big tax increase to cover this tragedy.
Good headline.
Now, I'd like to point out that I guess it's TDOT, but we've got all these new signs going up on our back roads now. Spending several $1,000s. This is probably part of the Shovel Ready Jobs program by our illustrious president. And mostly I'd like to say that we can maybe point out to the Aflac Duck, Mr. Bob Corker, that we already know that road's crooked and he could save that much money and wouldn't have to raise our gas taxes. But since he's decided to point out to us that there's an intersection coming up right by the time sometime after we can actually see the two roads intersecting, and wants to tell us, you know, that the road's crooked, like any fool can't see the road's crooked, that it's probably saved a lot of lives and we need to raise gas taxes a little more so we can make sure we got all these signs up.
I'm sure. I'm absolutely sure of that he has made the right decision.
Speaking of traffic, I noticed that our traffic light up at, I guess it's Indiana Avenue, has been put on a timer rather than a sensor. I think it was done that way when they had the accident up on 25. But it seems to me like it's still that way because I can come inside of it. The light's red. I don't see a vehicle going anywhere as far as crossing, going down or whatever. It's just everything's a sitting there. And it would be nice if that thing could be switched back on sensors. And that way, if you don't have nothing on the side, the through traffic can keep on trucking.
Well, you remember when they had the problem over on I-75 and they were routing traffic from Jellicoe down to Old 25W? And the city thought they would cooperate by basically putting all the lights on orange with no red lights.
Caution.
Through traffic.
To keep traffic moving. Well, you know, that worked so well. We never had another traffic jam. We had never had an accident. Never had traffic backed up. People could get out of the side roads fine without any problem. And as soon as we pointed out how well it was working, they couldn't wait to get down there the next morning and turn them red lights back on. Is that not government, or is that, you know, I don't know what it is about getting elected that switches the brain cells off, but boy, it works perfectly in this city and county.
That's right.
The ad that Knox County's running, see, Knox County's trying to eliminate or do away with the traffic cameras, and I'm sure everyone has seen where they got the traffic camera, and this car runs the light and really endangers some people. And to me, the camera did not stop the vehicle from running the light. And I hope they did at least get the guy's picture, but whether they did or not, I don't know.
Are
But
you still selling that device that blanks out your license plate?
There was
Is it a little laser or something?
you can, I don't know where it's at now, but you could at one time get a coating. And this coating has been used for a long time. When back years ago, before we had Google Earth, there was companies that would fly over and take pictures and sell you a copy. And they'd bring you the picture, full size and whatever to look at. But you could not take a camera and take a picture of that picture.
They copyrighted.
No, well, they wasn't copyrighted. It had a coating on it, and your camera would not take a picture of it.
Okay.
Anyhow, the heard a thing on the news today. There's a lawsuit up in Pennsylvania, and it's a they've got what they call them, townships instead of towns or whatever. They call them townships, I believe. But anyhow,
A township is a measure of acreage.
Okay, well, maybe it was.
That was designated when
Maybe a governing.
they
Okay.
set aside land to be dispersed.
Right. Is a section, is that correct? 160 acres?
I don't remember what a township was.
360. But anyhow,
Talk.
there's a lawsuit now. The NRA has brought suit against this, I'm going to call it a township, for restricting handguns or weapons or whatever else. And it comes back that a town cannot supersede the government or state law on it. Just like if the city here passes a ruling, they cannot override whatever the state ruling
Well,
is.
the First Amendment that everybody's so proud of says that the legislature shall make no laws. The Second Amendment says the right to keep and bear arms should not be infringed. It don't even give local.
It doesn't even give states that right, does it?
That's right. It's just
Now,
it's
when
definite.
It definitely says that. But Tennessee perpetrates the greatest infringement upon the Second Amendment of any state I know of.
You don't know nothing about New York, I guess.
They will not let you carry any bullets in your gun without getting a permit and paying for it. So your Second Amendment.
Hey, Bob, they can jail you in New York for having a magazine with no bullets in it.
Yeah,
Well, you think that's not a little worse than Tennessee?
yeah. Well, I don't know about
Washington,
that. I'm talking about.
D.C. had their laws overthrown by a judge, and they're still enforcing them,
All right,
despite the fact the
The
judge
Supreme Court.
ruled against them. Yes.
Yeah, the Supreme
And they're
Court.
just saying,
Let's
no,
put
we're going to do
put
it.
this way. Let's say that Tennessee has at least restrictions on the Second Amendment because they say you cannot have any bullets in your gun. You can bear arms, but you can't have any bullets in your gun.
You know who invented that, don't you?
What?
You know who invented that, don't you? Barney Fife, a deputy over in North Carolina.
Now, Barney caused it because they didn't want Barney to have but one bullet.
Over in North Carolina.
Yeah, they didn't want Barney to have that one bullet. That's the reason that Tennessee went that way with their gun laws. But you have no gun rights in Tennessee unless you pay for a privilege.
That's right. It's a privilege rather than a right, and the Constitution
Right.
says it's a right.
All right, you have a right. You waive that right. You don't have any rights. You have you can buy a privilege.
This goes back to where we give or allow our elected officials to make decisions, and then we do not hold them accountable for this type of thing. I can see where that we do need to have a background check or training or something
The
like
only
that. But
background, wait a minute, the only background check you need to have is if you're citizens. Then, if you deny somebody the right to have a gun, the onus is on the government to prove that you don't need to go and voluntarily give a background check. The government's got to prove you are not worthy of or should not have a gun. It's not on the citizen to prove that he is worthy.
I agree with that.
okay, I was trying to follow you what you were saying. How would they do that?
How does who?
How do you find out if a person is mentally stable or
Well, you
If
think
they're a
somebody
felon?
crazy is going to admit it?
well? I'm
Some
lost,
of them get TV and radio shows.
I'm lost in this thing. I don't understand exactly what you're. I don't exactly
There's a crazy
understand what you're saying.
Everybody is given the right as a citizen.
Everyone.
Does a
Everybody.
crazy
Okay.
man not have a right
Okay.
to defend himself?
Okay. All right. And
Does
if
a serial killer not
that-
have a right to protect his own?
yeah,
Well, a
serial
felon-
killer house right, and a
I mean,
felon-
he has the right to defend
Yeah.
himself.
I
The
see
founding
what-
principles of the
Okay.
U.S. government was that these rights are God-given, and that
Yeah.
we only allow government certain leeway and certain authority over us, and by that reasoning, the right to keep and bear arms was a God-given right, as in the right to self-defense. So you, in order to restrict that right, you'd have to prove that somebody was incompetent rather than him having to prove his competency.
Right, he don't have to prove
In other words,
anything.
what we're discussing is who substantiates whether. a
No,
person
we're
is or is
discussing
not.
If
who-
the government wants to deny you the right to have a gun, then they've got to.
Yeah,
Well,
Go
is
down.
that not what they're doing
Well,
whenever they ask you a question? Like,
we're not talking about what's right and what's wrong. We're saying that you're
Okay.
assuming that you have to prove your innocence, and we're arguing that they have to prove
Well,
your guilt.
I don't see where guilt and innocence comes.
Well,
into
it's the
this
same
thing.
principle. When you go to trial, you're assumed to be innocent, and they've got to prove you're guilty. What you're saying is you're assumed to be stupid, and you got to prove you're smart in order to own a gun.
I'm still lost in this, so I must be stupid. I don't understand where the discussion
what
where
we're
we're going
saying-
to.
What we're saying.
Okay, let me back up and ask a
certain
question.
criteria has to be met to
Yeah.
even buy a gun, okay?
Okay.
You got to get a permit to buy a gun,
Okay.
okay? All right.
Okay.
I say no. The government is infringing upon the right to own a gun.
Okay.
Everybody ought to be, that's a citizen, ought to be able to walk in and buy a gun. Now, if they don't want you to have a gun, then they gotta prove that you shouldn't have a gun.
Yeah,
Okay.
It's a difference
I'm
of-
still trying to follow.
you're
Okay.
assuming guilt, and we're assuming innocence.
Okay.
You know, used to, you could be fined for not carrying a gun.
Okay.
And this was during
Do,
colonial times.
Let's go back then. Let me go back then. Let's don't say right or wrong. Let's say legally then. If we go back to the Constitution,
Yep.
if you've already done in 10 people or whatever else, or if you've been incarcerated
Yeah.
for let me put it this for shooting somebody that didn't need to be shot.
And some people need killing. I agree
Well,
with
I
that.
understand that. But
Most of them are in politics.
let's say that you happen to act or by choice kill somebody that didn't need killing. Then do you think you should still be entitled to carry a weapon and whatever?
No, but I think
You
it's the
still have a
government.
right to defend, protect yourself.
I think it's the government's
God
the
given.
government's duty
Okay.
to prove that you're not competent. Look, do you want us? It's a crime to own a gun in New York City without a permit.
It's probably even illegal to even think about.
Yeah,
owning
but
one.
you see what I mean? It's a
Yeah.
crime to own a gun.
Right.
So that means that they're assuming you're a criminal.
No, Beck, they're assuming that you're not competent.
Which means that you're a criminal.
You mean all
I
incompetent
think
people
we
are
ought to
criminals?
assume everybody is competent until they're proven incompetent, as in innocent, and until
Now,
proven guilty.
Now, whenever they're charged with a felony, which I'm talking about whatever. Has that not already proven that they're
No, it's not until they're found guilty of that felony.
okay? I'm talking about after they've been found guilty.
Then if that's your
If they're found
criterion,
guilty,
okay.
Then there will be some automatic limit. But did you know that most felons who kill the second time do so with a gun that they bought anyhow?
Well, yeah, I'd assume they bought it or stole it one day. At least they come in possession of it in some manner.
Or they stole it.
Uh-huh.
But what we're saying.
Or stole the money to buy it
It's
with.
up to the government to deny you the right, based on whatever the criteria is, to own and possess a gun. It's not up to the individual to have to go make application and prove that he is eligible for a gun. Because the Constitution already gives him the right to bear arms.
Okay.
In other words, he might go say, I want to buy a gun, and they say, well, they're going to have to prove you something wrong with you before we can deny it to you. Here it is, and if we find out you're not allowed to get it, we'll come get it for you, take it away from you.
Sounds like a winner.
Well,
But-
look,
but
would you
whenever
want to
you-
go to trial where you had, as you would do in France, and prove your innocence rather than going to trial and then prove your guilt? There's a big difference.
This is went around and around so many circles, I don't even know
You've
where
done
I am.
surrendered. That's what's wrong with you. These politicians have
Someone else
confused
took
you.
my tie.
Well, you know, I got stopped right after I come up here. I've been stopped twice.
You've been
twice,
stopped more than that.
I got stopped by a highway patrolman over here. He said, I had my gun laying out. He says, you got bullets in that gun? I said, yes. That's the reason I laid it out, so you could say I had my gun. Because in North Carolina, if you got a gun, all you got to do is just display it. You know, you put it on the dashboard or whatever, you know. And because you don't have to have a carry permit. In Tennessee, you have to pay the government for permission.
That part, I agree. And I may agree with the other part and just don't know it, but I agree that you should not have to pay for that. That's not right. For them to charge you for that permit, that's not correct. And to charge you every...
Well, the thing is
I don't think there ought
permit.
to be a permit.
No.
Permit implies permission.
That's right.
What'd he do to you, Bob?
Okay.
Right, huh?
What did the lawman
Well,
do?
what he did, he said, you know, you're not supposed to have any bullets in that gun, Tennessee. I said, what? He said, no, he took them to my out. He said, put these in your pocket and handed me my little coat, that little coat, automatic, handed it back to me. You know.
Did you have one in the chamber?
Oh, yeah. I mean, what's use carrying a gun if it's not going to be loaded?
You don't want to interview too many congressmen when you're doing that.
Huh?
Does it have a safety on it?
Oh, it had safety on
It
it,
has?
yeah.
At least some weapons don't have a safety.
Yeah, that one does.
Glocks,
Yeah.
triggers,
I got one little close by here that don't have to.
But, you know, to me, it's absolutely crazy to say you have the right to carry a gun, or you have a right to go armed. You know, it don't say what kind of arms you got. You can have a .357 or you can have a .22 or whatever, you know. It's right to go armed, and it's not for self-defensive purposes. The Second Amendment was put in there to protect you against the government.
Okay.
Ninth and
To
Tenth
protect
Amendment.
you against
Ninth
that-
and
against-
Tenth Amendments was put in there to protect us against the government.
Also,
Well,
You
they
know-
were all to protect
You know,
us.
there's only, and Ninth and Tenth are the most ignored amendments to the Constitution
Right.
in the whole thing. What's amazing is there's only 3 federal crimes in the Constitution of the United States. And the Ninth and Tenth Amendment clearly states that if it's not in the Constitution, it reverts back to the states and the people. Well, now there's 2,500 federal crimes on the books, and we started out with only 3, and the Constitution clearly says that's it. That's all they're allowed to prosecute federally for.
yeah, but
Is those
what would
3
you do
crimes.
with all these lawyers?
Do you remember the girl running for re-election as district attorney? she didn't know but one out of the three, and she guessed it. Well, I think treason is one. She didn't even know the other two.
Right.
Law school graduate,
of the-
law school graduate,
Yeah, of the original ones.
and a public school graduate.
Right.
Can't count to three.
Right. That's the public education, you know, and, but, you know, I really think, you know, the, open carry, law came up last time, was it, and they did action on it.
Well, in Tennessee, I believe legally you're allowed to carry an open carry in Tennessee. The way the thing is written up, if they haven't changed it, it says you have a carry permit, and it doesn't state whether it doesn't state a concealed weapon.
No, it's a carry. It's
No,
a
that's
carry-
after you apply for the permit. It's not,
It's a carry permit.
it's not like,
You're right, that's correct, that's
How
correct.
you
No, I
gonna
think in
bear
Kentucky-
arms if you can't carry it?
I think in Kentucky, and Bob says in North Carolina, as long as you display it, you can carry it without asking anybody.
Okay.
True.
But
I've laid
you-
it up,
well,
I've
question.
laid it up on the dashboard many times in North
Are
Carolina.
you allowed to carry it concealed?
No, no, you have to have a concealed weapon permit in North Carolina,
Okay.
which I'm not
I
saying
got
that's
you. I see
right,
what
I'm
you're
just
saying.
telling you how it is.
Right, I see what you're saying. You're allowed to carry it on your side as long as it's not
Carry it on
concealed.
your side, as long as they can't prove
But-
you're going as a terror to the community. You were there to intimidate or terrify somebody by carrying it,
Okay.
which that'd be hard to
Well,
prove.
well, just the presence of a weapon would intimidate a lot of people.
The
Just
bigger the
presence
weapon,
of-
the more the intimidation, I guess.
Right,
I get pretty scared of these guys, these machetes myself.
right.
Well, would that not be
That
considered?
Boko Haram over in Nigeria and everything, you know, they just chop you up, cut your head off.
The, if you, okay, arms and a weapon, what's the differentiation between a ball bat? I mean, that's a close quarter weapon.
They don't prohibit ball bats.
You talk about carrying guns across state lines since you drive North Carolina a lot. You know, there used to be laws where a certain state would recognize
They're reciprocating laws.
Right.
reciprocating laws.
Uh-huh.
And
What do you mean used to be?
Still is, I believe. I believe all
I
states.
think they're pretty much, everybody's accepting everybody now.
It's all
Pretty
states
much.
on Tennessee's law. I believe it's all states that border Tennessee.
Well,
used
it's
to
also
states-
several more, but it's not the
Used to
restrictive
states-
states like Illinois and New York and stuff like
Well,
that.
New York, well, they don't honor, New York doesn't honor Tennessee laws.
Well,
They don't just barely honor their own.
States that I drove through, some of them would not reciprocate with Tennessee law, but everybody that had any kind of gun carry permit recognized New Hampshire. And you could go on the internet and get you a New Hampshire carry permit for $20.
And it's honored in Tennessee.
And it was
All
honored
states.
everywhere that
What
where
about
they
New-
honored guns of
Oh,
any way
okay.
whatsoever. Everybody reciprocated New Hampshire.
And what was the purpose?
And then I got it.
Live free or die.
I got
Okay.
it. It was for 4 years. When it came time to renew, they wanted $200 instead of $20. I said, well,
Non-resident?
I was, you know, Tennessee's now accepted by just about all the states that have carry laws.
Is that right?
Yeah.
That's good. I didn't know that.
You can go on the internet and find out who reciprocates with Tennessee.
Okay.
And there are several states,
Okay.
just about anywhere where this has reasonable concealed carry permits reciprocates.
Just about all southern.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
And adjoining states reciprocate with Tennessee now.
that might
Used
be-
to, Kentucky didn't. Georgia didn't.
But Kentucky is not, they're open carry without permit. In other words, when you cross the Tennessee border, if you took it out of your pocket and hung it on your side, you was all right.
But you're not allowed to carry concealed. then.
That's right, without permit. I mean, it used to be, I guess it's still that way.
I see. that may be, okay, now, that we're talking about state, what happens whenever you come into like these townships and cities and stuff like that?
State law prevails.
Straight law prevails, okay? Should anyhow, should anyhow,
Yeah, it does.
without
Folks,
getting
you're
into a
getting a free online education.
It's worth
in
about
gun
what
law.
it's worth about what you said.
Worth
there,
every
free.
penny.
Worth
Worth
every
every
penny.
penny.
Well, I think, statistics, which I'm not much on statistics, but I think it has shown that the states that have adopted open carry laws, the incidence of crime and violence has gone down.
Yeah, that's Florida was,
Oh,
I believe, the first state to.
Enact.
There was a
Well,
law.
to really,
A guy,
and
professor law,
that's the reason they did it.
LOTT,
They were so covered up.
Right.
from the University of
Right.
Chicago that did the first study on every time a state passed a law permitting concealed carry, crime rate dropped significantly. Not
Yeah.
just a tiny bit, but a lot.
Yeah,
That happened in Florida. Florida was covered up. They was having all kinds of problems. Well, they was having so much problems they could not.
can't handle
They
it.
couldn't handle it.
They also got rid of that law where that outside your home, now you can stand your ground. Used to you couldn't. You had to, if you had an avenue of escape, you had to
You had to run. if
you had
could,
to run or get
yeah.
out of there.
Yeah.
It used to
but-
be that in Tennessee, I think it still is, but it used to be that in Tennessee, if somebody broke in your house after they got inside, you could shoot them and they was paid for it. And at that time, at one time, and I think it's a little different now, in Texas, as long as you could hit them from the front porch, you was all right. Or the back
Well, in
porch.
Tennessee, we shoot them and drag them in.
Yeah, there was a guy, one of our former sheriffs, we had some problems with break-ins down there, and Pop had a man staying there of a night, and he asked the sheriff, said, what if this man shoots somebody? And he said, well, you gotta make sure he's inside before you shoot him. He said, if you shoot him in the parking lot, drag him in and then call me. That happened.
Don't doubt it. That's a solution. That's a permanent solution to I guess, a permanent problem. That's, anyhow, I'm thinking along the lines of some other situations.
Hey, that's what we're here for, to confess our situations.
Well, when we took our training or whatever, they suggested that you couldn't shoot a person in the back. And that's kind of hard to, if a person is making for the door or whatever, they can still get off a round even if they don't get to aim.
You gotta shoot him in the back and then go finish him off from the front.
Yeah.
So,
Well, they had
that first bullet spun him around.
I had this boy down in Mississippi that had 37 bullet wounds to the back, and they ruled it the worst case of suicide in the history of the state.
You heard about
Was his hands tied
Sure.
behind him?
Sheriff Grady down in Polk County, Florida. There was a guy that escaped from jail, killed a police officer, and of course, when you kill a police officer, they all come after you. And
They didn't shoot women in California.
they got him out in the swamp area and shot him 87 times. And the newsman interviewed Sheriff Grady and said, why'd you shoot him 87 times? He said, well, we ran out of ammunition.
Mercy.
Well, that's very true.
Meaning you would have shot him a lot more if they hadn't run
But you
out of
know,
ammunition.
one thing that ain't gonna happen here. You go up to Napa Auto Parts and they are not gonna run out of automobile parts. I went up there, I had to go 3 times yesterday. I had to have an air filter for an Onan generator. You know,
I know the story of Onan.
Onan store, but they had the filter, okay? I had to have a spark plug, for a home light chainsaw. They had that. And then I went back for something else, forgot what it was, but whatever it was, they had that too, so I went 3 times. That's Napa Auto Parts, which for Jerry's edification stands for National Automobile Parts Association, okay?
Thank you, Bob. I'd have never known that if you hadn't pointed that out.
You can put that down on a card and give it
That's
there.
hard to remember from week to week.
What's the phone number?
They're right across from IGA, and you can reach them at 562-2529.
25 what? 2529?
2529.
562-2529.
2529.
You guys know what onanism is?
Right, okay,
What?
Onanism.
Not me.
right. That's
You know what
Napa Auto
onanism
I'm
is?
not familiar with that.
Do you know what onanism is?
What?
Onanism.
Onanism.
Yeah.
It's got an
No,
ism
what?
on the end of it.
I ain't gonna tell you now, but you're talking about an Onan generator or something, and I was asked you if you knew what.
Onan.
Onan.
Do you know what onanism is?
Is that something like a selfie?
Well, it's kind of like a selfie. It's a little more, physical.
Right, okay. All right.
Named after Onan from the
Right.
Old Testament.
Right, okay. But it was very pleasant today, what the weather was. I thought it was very pleasant.
It's still a little nippy. I had to have
Right.
heat.
It's gonna get a little bit more nippier, and I expect you better go down to Sawmill Holler where the road splits, And down there in Sawmill Holler where the road splits, you got none other than Von Digger Wilson and his 42 flavors of propane. He's got it $14 a 20-pound tank, and it is full of propane. Anywhere else you'll get about 15 pounds in your tank. He's got good repair for propane appliances, whether it be your stoves or whether it be propane refrigerators. He even does that. That's Wilson's Propane Gas down Sawmill Holler at 562-5444.
54-44.
Right. 562-5444. Okay?
I'll tell you what, there's a lot of other uses for that propane too. It works good in a tow motor,
Yeah, it does.
and we run torches off of them.
Oh, yeah, I love it.
Sure do, instead of acetylene.
It takes maybe just a little bit longer to get hot, but
Yeah.
it does good.
It gives a cleaner cut. I mean, it takes a little longer to get your cut started.
Right.
You get them set tags with it like you do with the acetylene.
Yeah,
I don't think I've ever seen a set tag with it.
Yeah, it
I
don't leave
believe
a, it
does.
don't leave a real
set tag.
ragged cut.
That's right, it don't leave the slag, it leaves a cleaner cut. Most of the time, if you've got any slag, you can hit it with chip and hammer and
Right.
pop it right off.
Yeah,
Makes a lot cleaner cut.
that's true.
Sure does.
But if you should do like I have done in the past, burn your eyes welding.
Oh, boy.
Oh.
That sounds like fun.
Can't find your way
Nowadays, You have
home.
the benefit you can call Vital Care Medical Transport to come and take you to the hospital.
You're speaking from experience too, aren't you, Bob?
I am. They have picked me up when I was in dire straits from drinking some bad tomato juice. Carried me to the hospital. I recuperated. Tender loving care. Right on the spot. They didn't make a big fuss about coming. You need to call them if you have a medical emergency, whether you need to be transported to or from a medical facility. I expect since they are all-American company and they'd take cash, they'd probably just pick you up and ride you around if you want to pay for it. So that's Vital Care. There's 562-9370.
9370.
Right.
I don't know how in the world you fellas can remember all
And
the
it don't
numbers.
take any tax dollars to support Vital Care.
That's a great thing. You know, we're having quite a little round with our emergency service. We have That's
What's
right, that's
amazing
right.
is they fired the guy that was the head of the county ambulance service, then turned around and talked about how great he was, what a great job he did.
Then he isn't kicking him in when he's down.
That's right.
Right. Well,
Kick him down, pick him up.
he made himself absolutely indispensable. He was the coordinator for a number of things here. Well, Bob and Ronnie,
It's about time.
hey!
I just thought I'd check in on you fellas and let you know that there's people out there listening to you.
You ain't got no propane down the holler,
Yeah.
do
I got plenty of it.
you?
Yeah, we were just talking about you.
I know.
Of course, we bad to lie.
Well, maybe on them flavors and things, you might have been stretching the truth a little bit. But
You only got 41 flavors instead of 42, right?
All right, I'm sorry about that.
like that, I've got 20-pound tanks, 20-pound gas cylinders. They are $35 the month of February, and they are full.
Well, Digger, did you know if you went anywhere else, it cost over $50 for that?
I know.
Well, it ain't got there one of them there blue alligators on it.
Well, I ain't got no alligators on mine, and $35 for the month of February. And
Well, that's
Well,
a
you're gonna have to
bargain.
hurry. That's today.
That's
No,
a
whoa,
bargain.
whoa. That starts tomorrow, don't it?
Tomorrow.
well, it's been
Yeah.
36 all the month of January, so I decided to go down $1 instead of going up.
That's unheard of.
And another thing I heard you fellas talking about cutting with that propane, that's a much cleaner cut, and let me educate you a bit on that. If you're using a number 4 tip to cut with subtlane, just go to a number 5, and it don't take you no longer to heat and cut with a number 5 tip with propane than it does with a number 4 subtlane, and there's no slag to it. And that way you eliminate the slag, and there ain't all this grinding, beating, and thumping. And
We'll put the slag hammer people out of business.
Yeah, there you are, working against business.
no, I'm for business. This just gets your job done more efficient.
Well, you could rig them up one of them things like you fixed for me. They could do all sorts of things with that.
Yeah, they can blow the job up.
A tank of propane will outlast
A tank of acetylene.
acetylene, and I believe, if I'm not mistaken, we'll go through 4 or 5 bottles of oxygen with a 100-pound tank of of propane, or maybe more.
And a $50 bottle of acetylene will not much more than use up one good tank of oxygen.
That's correct. Sure will. We've
So there's a big savings, and that's what people don't know. They don't know that acetylene costs about a quarter to or a little over what acetylene costs. And I don't examine your tank and tell you that it's got somebody else's name on it. If you come in with a tank, I put gas in it.
there you go. It's
Well,
a
we
container.
appreciate you.
Yeah.
I've got a lot of other people that appreciate it because they was here today. They was lined up.
Might have something to do with cold weather, Digger.
Supposed to snow Tuesday, isn't it?
It's supposed to snow a Sunday night and Monday morning.
Sunday night, Monday morning.
Yeah.
Now,
So-
thank you,
so
fellers.
If you wanna cut with propane and save yourself about and also there's
Oh, you do it for less than half?
a lot less than
Not
that.
less than
Yeah, a
that.
lot less than half.
Another thing, these people tell you that you can't weld and braze with propane.
Yeah.
Same thing applies. Go
Same
to a
thing.
bigger tip, and these radiator shops used to weld them ears back on them dozer radiators with propane after I got them into a bigger tip and things of that nature. So you can do some fantastic work with propane and do it cheaper.
Well, it'll burn a lot cleaner than acetylene will.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
it's
and
cleaner.
if you're anytime you're working with brass or solder or copper, if you don't keep it clean, that carbon could really cause a problem with acetylene.
Well, that's the reason I heard you folks talking about that cutting and what have you, that propane. I thought I'd line you up on that. You just go one size bigger tip to do the same thing as you do with a acetylene tip,
Right.
and it is about no more than a third the cost of acetylene.
Well, what will eat you up on acetylene too is demurrage on a tank. Whereas you can own a propane tank, and a lot of these acetylene are, they kind of raise a fuss about them sometimes, and you end up paying a lot more demurrage than you do even by the material in it.
Well, see, you can't buy from some of these welding supply people around here. You can't buy from them because they want you to have their tank, and if they take your tank, then they stamp their name on it.
That's correct.
Then you go back and they charge you rent on that tank.
That's right.
On your own tank?
Well, if you
So,
take,
if you're thinking about doing some cutting and welding, just check with me, and I'll show you how to do it for a whole site less. And plus, I've got a better price on propane.
yeah. Well, we started using it so long ago, we just take it for granted. We've done it for several years, well, as long as, I don't know how long, but that's what we've done for many years, is use propane.
And also, like I said, if you go to gas well something, just go to a bigger tip.
Uh-huh.
And you got it. As long as you're doing a good job, and I'm going to get off here and let somebody else give somebody else some room to get in.
All right, thank you for
See
calling.
ya.
Thank you for the call.
Yep.
Well,
Okay.
let's tell me
Now,
something. Go ahead.
if you want a number 5 propane tip, I got a new one.
There you go. I hadn't thought about changing that, but that makes sense.
Right.
By you'll get more propane
Yeah.
to your preheat. The preheat's the only thing I'd ever seen any difference in.
Right.
As far as cutting,
Right.
the cut was always seemed to be about the same,
Right.
but the preheat was.
Right.
And by doing what he's
I
saying,
got that tip out there in the truck.
yeah, you'll bring up the preheat. Tell me something, fellas. I know everybody seems to have heard about measles, and I heard the doctor said something the other day that there was no way that it come from somewhere else, and I think he got a big attaboy for that.
What do you do? Think he found it in the woods somewhere?
Well, I believe what he tried to say was those 62,000 unaccompanied guests from south of the border
Yeah.
were all vaccinated.
They were all vaccinated.
Yeah.
Well, most of them didn't even know what it was to use toilet paper.
Well, but they're saying that they were all vaccinated though. From that, in other words, that's the indication you get that there's no way it could have been.
Is he a doctor or a
wouldn't think so,
politician?
But if you look at the path of that thing, you'll see right where it come up through California and then spread out. You
Now
know.
it's spread plumb down to Mexico
Yeah,
now.
yeah, I know.
Yeah, they caught it from us.
Some people
Well,
went down
what-
there and give it to them.
What it is, it's all these American children down there on the border that are sneaking into Mexico, unaccompanied.
Yeah.
Right,
Has
yeah.
probably carried it down
Right,
there,
yeah,
most likely.
right.
And some roosters we've been shipping down to Mexico.
Well, I wonder where they're getting their guns now that they're watching holders so close.
I don't know, they had to find a more reliable source, I
Now, I
guess.
believe they did. That last shipment, the one that the officer got killed with, there was 12,000 weapons in that shipment.
Oh,
And we would send them down there so we could track them.
well, see, they wanted to make sure that our Second Amendment worked for other people as well as
Yeah.
us. So that's the reason they set those guns down there, because they felt like they had the right to bear arms also.
Well, that was an idea. Of course, if you're sending that many weapons, and before this shipment, there was all along they'd been shipping weapons down there. Or if you want to call it shipping, they were crossing the border.
Right,
But there was something like 60,000 weapons that had been sent down there.
right, yeah.
But there was 12,000 of these that was in the bunch that was going to be tracked.
Right,
And I reckon the only way they was going to track them is whenever they dug a slug out of somebody
right.
and checked the ballistics on
It's
it.
aha.
Yeah, aha, there's one of them guns we sent down there. But this is interesting how an agency of the government will send weapons, and these weapons were some high-class weapons, semi-automatic, probably could be converted fully automatic with just a little work.
Right,
But anyhow, this new Attorney General, I think that they're trying to get confirmed, I believe she feels that that
It was
Holder
okay
didn't,
for 'em to
yeah,
do
that
that.
it was okay to do that, and all
she
the
also-
other things, she's in
She
agreement.
also believes that the president has not overstepped his authority as far as his executive orders are concerned.
And that everybody has a right to work. That means that everybody, if everybody has a right to work, somebody's obligated to give them a job.
We could have a discussion about jobs. It's like A&S and the other places that we're losing. Anytime we lose jobs, it's going to hurt, and that one's really
Now,
going to hurt.
You don't understand the modern way of looking at things.
I probably don't.
Now you take this job loss that we had here in Campbell County. I'm not going.
Tax increase,
125
a big tax
or
increase
150
will
or 300.
offset.
But let me tell you how this works. So let's say it's 300.
And I'll
Most
show
of
you
those
probably
people, most of those people who had jobs are good workers, and they
Right.
go find them some other workers, other jobs, so that will not go on the unemployment roll. Those who do can't find comparable jobs, they will take 2 part-time jobs. So that means we're gonna have 2 jobs created by losing one. So they show 1 job lost and 2 gained. And so we'll have an increase in the number of people, the number of jobs in this country.
So instead of losing 300, we're going to gain
Yeah, we're
450.
still losing 300 jobs, but when it all comes down, we've gained jobs.
Right. It's how you play with the numbers.
Yeah,
This, when they changed the work week to 30 hours has made a heck of a difference.
France had done
Yeah.
that previously,
Well, we've done it now through the Affordable Care, Obamacare.
right,
Obama declared that 30 hours is a full week.
right.
And anyone